What is going on, everybody? We are going to do something a little bit different tonight, a little short episode tonight. As you can tell, my background behind me, we're going to discuss some NBA tonight. Corey, show me your jersey. If anybody can guess this player for the Nets, show them the number. We'll give you a shout out on the next pod. If you guess this player without looking it up, we will give you a shout out on the next podcast or YouTube.
Is it Ben
So
Simmons?
tonight we're going to discuss some NBA things. As I said before, we're going to discuss some pro-am basketball. I know it's August. It's a time where you don't really talk about NBA basketball, but a highly talented rookie, Chet Holmgren, injured himself this past week in a pro-am while guarding LeBron on a fast break layup attempt. And of course, LeBron, built like a tank, doesn't get injured. But going into the draft this year, going forward in his career, a lot of people were worried about how Chet would hold up in the NBA, and he hasn't even made it to the NBA yet, and he's already injury prone. So, what does this say about Chet going forward, and what do you think overall? How will this affect his career going forward? I'll start with you, Corey.
So, I mean, we've talked about it on this podcast, especially I remember Garrett and I were talking about, the ability of Chet to gain muscle to eventually stay healthy. And that's been a topic all throughout the draft, all pre-draft, post-draft, everything is about if Chet could stay healthy. And most pro-Chet, guys would always say, he's never been seriously injured before, and he plays through minor injuries and all that. But I mean, we look at ligament damage in the foot, and it's unclear right now, but it doesn't sound very good. You watch the way he lands, and it wasn't a contact injury. It was just he lands and he has a 7'1" frame that lands funny and awkward. And those foot injuries are something to worry about. You look, especially in big guys in the past. I mean, there are countless examples to really look for. And so you got to worry about, it's one thing if it's a contact injury and there's purpose, reason why he got injured. But when it's just you landing funny, it's kind of something to really worry about.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking, and he's what is it, second pick, third pick?
Second.
It's just hard.
Corey, fact check.
He's
this.
second pick, I think.
Second
Yeah,
pick.
he's second pick.
Okay.
It's just hard going from you're at the top of the world, then you're just playing basketball that you love. I mean, you're playing against LeBron. He tried to show out. He's playing LeBron. If I was him, I'd do the same thing. It just sucks, and it's just I know he's feeling it right now, but what Corey said and we talked about was just he's just have to build muscle around it and come back from it. I know they got good, trainers up there, so he'll come back from it. It'll be a while, but it's the only thing you can do. You can't do anything about it, so you just got to come back from it.
Right, Toby.
I think if you're Sam Presley in Oklahoma City, you are really upset right now because you go out and you get your guy that you think that is gonna be your front court, your front court, and a pro-am doesn't mean anything at all. All you're doing is getting shots up. It doesn't mean anything when you make a good play. The only thing you're going to get is you're going to get on Twitter. And I think if you're Sam Presley, you're upset. And as a person that keeps up with basketball but doesn't watch basketball as much as maybe I should, it's kind of heartbreaking, like what Garrett was saying, that you're supposed to be the guy. You're the new guy in town. You're supposed to be this next up and coming dude, and you go out there and you give it your all, and you're playing in a pro-am league that doesn't matter. I know you're going against LeBron, but the thing is, you're 18 years old where LeBron's 36, and he's been in this league. He knows what his body can take, and you do not. So it really is upsetting that you're going to go out there and get injured in the game that does not matter. The only thing that matters is you're going to be on Twitter later tonight. And you definitely got on Twitter because, you just got injured and you're probably going to be out for the season from what maybe we've been reading. That it's really tough. And you also lose a whole year of development. You get a whole year where now you got to sit on the bench. You're not going against these guys. You're not going against Giannis. You're not going against the top talent in the world because you messed up and you played hard in a game that doesn't even matter.
I think it sort of goes back to what Corey said, though. Like, up to this point, he's never been injured, so he never thought something like that would ever happen to him. But then he played against an NBA athlete. Of course, it's a pro-am, but like I mentioned when we started, it's LeBron. And of course, it may have not been a contact injury. Me and Corey were talking about this a minute ago. But when you're going at a speed that you're not used to against a guy that's just as about as big as you are, or maybe even bigger, I mean, it's hard to put into terms in our minds of how that was going. And something I want to talk about here is two young guys that have had foot injuries in the NBA. I want to go over their height and weights. I'm going to start with Zion Williamson. He's 6'6", 284 pounds. And you could probably add a little bit more to that because usually they try to thin you out or try to give you a few more inches on your height. He's had foot injuries in the past. Chet is 7 foot, 190 pounds. So these two guys really are on opposite ends of the spectrum with their frame, their body type. But how these athletes are built now, me and the guys that I'm here with in Knoxville now, we were talking about how builds on people sometimes can affect their athletic ability. Like I was talking about Derrick Rose, his athletic ability, like his frame couldn't keep up with that. His legs gave out on him. That's the same with Zion, same with Chet. And I feel like what Toby said is 100% facts. This is not going to be good for Chet because this is a year that he won't be able to get better, become a better basketball player, especially at the NBA level. And I think that affects Chet, and I also think that's going to affect Zion going forward. And I don't think Chet has that same padding, that same height as Zion did coming out of college.
I don't think anybody had that much
Yeah,
height.
no, that's true.
Zion's probably the biggest LeBron.
That's what I'm saying, because Zion can be in the league for another 4 or 5 years and do what he's doing. If Chet gets injured again next year, or if he doesn't produce in 2 or 3 years, he may not be able to last as long as Zion could.
So I'd like to push back just a little bit on both you and Toby's talk about how losing this 1 year, say this is just a hypothetical because we don't know the severity of it, but say he were to lose his entire rookie season. I think at least playing devil's advocate, you could see this and come up with a really solid explanation on how this could actually be really good for his career moving forward. And I'll give you why. So one, the skill was never the problem. Basketball skill wise, he has it all. You know, he has the mentality, he has the IQ, he has the ability, you know, the skill, you know, whether it's with the ball, but also, you know, we saw in summer league his shots looking good. The main thing was his body. And so having a full year, yes, he's recovering, but he's having another full year under NBA level training programs, strength and conditioning programs. This could by far be the thing that sets him up for greatness, to really focus on his body. You know, one thing that a lot of people that are talking about rookie of the year already, they don't really have high expectations for Chet this coming up season in, you know, a hypothetical before the injury, just because it's his body that needed to fill out. And so this could be the thing that really doesn't give him bumps, scratches, bruises, little minor injuries through this rookie season because he's a little small. So I could see this being something that he could look back at and see that's where, you know, I really got an NBA body ready.
Yeah, but like the whole time during the draft process, people were like, the haters were saying, if a stiff wind hits him, it's going to blow him over. I know you said it's going to be a full year for him to get to the NBA level, but like we were playing that game earlier, we recorded another pod before this. You get an injury-prone guy, that puts pressure not only on your coach, but also on your front office and also on your owner. Do we pick the guy that we know is going to be great in the future, that has that ceiling? But me and Corey, we talked about this before, probably 2 or 3 podcasts ago. He's most likely to be an all-star in 5 years, but it's also possible that he can be out of the league in 5 years. And that's primarily because of his body type. If you're 7 foot and 190 pounds, I mean, 190 pounds is ideal for a guy that's 6 foot, and he's a foot taller than that. Mm-hmm. So, of course, there's going to have to be some building blocks to that, but there's a lot of red flags being raised right now, I feel like, with Chet Holmgren.
To be fair, though, the Thunder aren't in a position where they have to put their entire future onto this one guy. They have 5 players probably around that, maybe even 6, that are all under the ages of 24, 25, that are all solid to maybe even like Shea's an all-star level caliber player.
Yeah, but you don't draft somebody at number 2 if you're not going to want them to be. Yeah.
But see, you're not really leveraging your entire future on Chet, though. And so he's a building block to that, but he's not the Paolo Banchero of the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, but I feel like John, I feel like you talked about this last time too. And I said he's not as popular as Zion is, but I feel like a young player, a guy that's under 23, 24 years old, I feel like Chet is that next guy in line with the cameras are on this guy. And if he doesn't produce, if he's not playing next year, I feel like that'll dip. And I know you're saying there's guys on the Thunder that could be great, but if you're thinking about it right now, the guys that were there, weren't they there last year?
Mm-hmm. Well, they got three people in the first round this past draft, though. So they got two extra young guys who, you know, if you give them chances, say Chet's out, you don't have to worry about his skill development.
Yeah, they'll be drafting guys that are in fifth grade right now. The Thunder will, because they've got draft picks for that many years.
Yeah.
But it's going to be an interesting development, especially going forward for the Thunder. So let's talk about a team that's on the other end of the spectrum now. We're talking about, I guess you could say, the bottom of the NBA. Let's go to the top. Let's talk about the snake in Corey's picture. Let's talk about Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant has finally decided after the past few months, after dealing with, I want the head coach fired, I want the general manager fired, I want to be traded. Well, they told him no to all those things, and he's finally decided, all right, I'll stay. It's a weird situation. It's weird to think that a guy of this caliber is demanded to trade with as much money he's going to make. What do y'all make of this, Corey? I'll start with you.
I want to hear Toby. He's really.
Okay, go ahead, Toby. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, we made a joke in our group chat that makes so much sense. Kevin Durant heard he may be going to Memphis, and he was like, no, it ain't gonna happen. But I think a guy like Kevin Durant, you know, who was the snake, which is in my corner, it's down here, was the Viper, where he wanted to go win 2 championships, and he did. He won 2 championships. But it's the fact that, like, now he's got big headed, and it took an organization like the Nets to say, you know what, you may have that big head, but at the end of the day, you're on our team, so we're not going to do what you want. And finally, he realized he had to be humbled for a second. And I think Kevin Durant finally got that humbled mentality, where now you could see with that mentality where he's bought back in, that he could really have a great season this year. He could possibly win MVP or something like that this year. But I think it took a few weeks for them to just say, no, you're not getting what you want. And if you do still want to get out, we're going to send you to where you want to go. And he didn't want to do that. So it just took a few weeks of humbling him down a little bit, stepping down a notch. That he's not on LeBron's level. He doesn't control everything. So it just took him for a second to step back, and he's finally.
Everybody wants to be like LeBron, but don't have the nuts for it.
That's true. I mean, at the end of the day, LeBron is the only player in history that has that much power. And no, I can say this with certainty: no player will ever have that much power ever again.
Well, see, LeBron's got the business mentality of it that KD doesn't. KD feels that it's a basketball reputation that gives him that justice, or that reputation that he, quote unquote, deserves because of his on-court play. Where LeBron, you look at it with the Cavs, for example, and with the Lakers in the beginning, he would sign these 1-year deals. He has leverage saying, oh, if I want, I can just leave next season. Try to, please me or I'm gone. KD's on a 4-year deal. He didn't have the leverage to begin with. And then on top of that, what killed him, and you hear this in every podcast, every NBA analysis, anywhere, they say KD ruined it when he said, I want out or I want them to gone. Yeah. Because who wants to get that player now? Mm-hmm. That's a culture ruiner. It's immediately, you were already worried about, okay, if I were to get KD, what do you want to play on my team? But now, if I get KD, he might be willing to give us an ultimatum on him or our own ownership, in the front, or front staff, whatever, right? So that was the biggest problem with what KD did. That's where he obviously differs from.
These NBA players nowadays, man, they're spoiled. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. You're getting paid millions and millions of dollars just to play basketball. Yeah. Just freaking play. I've never understood that. Just freaking play. I've never understood that a day in my life. I love basketball. I would play for the Memphis Grizzlies right now if they gave me $15. It's just play.
I think what at the end of the day, he's just trying to say they're soft. They're just a bunch of soft guys, bro.
Never said
KD's
that. I
soft.
just said they're
That's
spoiled.
the whole reason behind this.
So
whole
the thing that
situation.
I would give KD credit for is he would never pull a Ben Simmons, a James Harden,
Kyrie
all these
Irving.
other a Kyrie. Exactly. He's going to play basketball. He likes to play basketball.
Oh yeah, that's
He
what.
might sulk during the post-game, pre-game interviews. He might give off some really weird vibes on Twitter. But at the end of the day, he's a basketball player. And when you think about it, he might be 34, 35, whatever he is.
He's gonna
but-
give you 30.
Yeah, he's about to be 34. But he, like Garrett said, he averaged 30 points last season after a massive Achilles. This guy is – and it was insane to watch the dynamic of this whole process go from you have recency bias of they were the only team swept in the playoffs, and he did not look good at all. But he also got swept by the team who lost, and it was 2 games away from a title. And people forgot about this is Kevin Durant we're talking about. But then it went all the way up to the top of the peak after the Rudy Gobert trade that we talked about, where now you're expecting an entire team for one guy.
Yeah.
And so it's like, hopefully it's leveling out now where it doesn't damage him too much, because at the end of the day, he's one of the best basketball players we've ever seen.
I love what you're saying, Corey. Like, you stole my 2 topics that I was going to talk about. The 2 reasons why he wasn't traded. I guess I'll just go into a little bit more detail what you're talking about. My first one is his 4-year extension with the Nets. It's a 4-year, $198 million extension that ties him to the Nets from 2025 to 2026. Like you said, LeBron is good at what he does because he does those 1 or 2 year contracts to where he can have leverage with the team. LeBron is a part owner in Liverpool. As Premier League soccer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's got his hands in all these different major corporations. He knows how to work businesses, and he knows how to work money. And he knows how to do that through an organization because he did that in Cleveland. I mean, I think he even did that with the Heat, and of course he's doing that with the Lakers. He knows how to work money. He knows how to leverage himself inside an organization. The next thing, like Corey said, was the Rudy Gobert, the climate change in the NBA. When Rudy Gobert goes to the Timberwolves for Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverly, Leandro Balmero, Walker Kiesler, which was the number 22 pick in the 2022 draft, Jared Vanderbilt, 2023 first-round pick, 2025 first-round pick, 2026 pick swap, 2027 first-round pick, and 2029 first-round pick. That's for Rudy Gobert. That's crazy. And the thing about it is Kevin Durant, if he was going to get traded, like I think I saw a leak, if what they wanted from the Lakers, they wanted Anthony Davis, LeBron James, one other key role player, and 2 of our next first-round picks, which is the only 2 first-round picks we have left in this decade, because I'm a Lakers fan, so I can say we. But there was no way Kevin Durant was going to get moved in this free agency cycle. I feel like, in my
I
personal.
don't think anybody would give up what like the Nets would want for him. They want too much.
Well, see, the problem is the Nets had the expectations that they were going to get a team that I'm going to just call it stupid enough, like the Timberwolves.
Yeah.
Just because it was a stupid outlier trade doesn't mean that that's the new thing. The Anthony Davis thing was the new thing when that happened. You know, you had 3 key role players and a bunch of picks. This was 10 assets in total, 5 players, 5 draft picks. For arguably the second most controversial player in the league behind maybe Russ.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Of course, this is an all-time player, but it's not Kevin Durant. And so they just immediately assume, like, we get more.
I want to quickly just give you a hypothetical. Let's say that Rudy Gobert trade doesn't happen. And I know we texted back and forth in the group chat where I sent you a hypothetical trade from Memphis to the Nets. Okay. Me and Corey are both Grizzlies fans, sadly. But I was joking. But let's say hypothetically the Rudy Gobert trade doesn't happen. And the one that I sent you, the hypothetical, I can't remember the analyst that sent it, but it was 2 first-round picks, Triple J and Dylan Brooks. That Rudy Gobert trade doesn't happen to the Nets. Do you think that Nets trade would have actually went through if it was real, which it probably wasn't? It was just something that
would have went through.
You know why it wouldn't have went through though? Is because there are probably 3 other ones that are actually rumored or leaked that were actually offered that are all better. You have Jaylen Brown is an all-star. You
Mhm.
have Brandon Ingram, that's an all-star. You had Mikal Bridges and DeAndre Ayton in a
Mhm.
package. There are so many more packages that were offered or even talked about and rumored that on top of the fact that there's better talent, KD also would have been able at that point probably to leverage to a team that he wanted to go to. And
So-
Memphis is the last on that page.
So what you're saying is the Gobert trade doesn't happen. He definitely gets traded this week.
It depends on how he handles it. I think if he handles it the same, I don't think anyone wants him. I don't think
think
the Rudy Gobert was the main thing. I think it was just a part of the problem. I think if only one happens, I still think it's probably not going to happen because you look like just the history of the NBA, mega superstars like that usually just don't get traded because
Mhm.
they're always undervalued. But I mean, you never know because KD kind of botched this, and I think maybe I'm giving KD too much credit, but I think KD might have actually done this on purpose, for sure, at least to just at least see what was out there. But also, he wanted the best for Kyrie. That was the main reason he threw a fit in the first place. He wanted Kyrie to get the full extension, and he didn't. And so that's when he said, "I want out." So I think under the table somewhere, they are committed to Kyrie more than ever now. And so that's what actually, because it had nothing to do with Steve Nash or Sean Marks. It just didn't. He liked Steve Nash. I think the biggest thing was he wanted whatever he could do, whatever tantrum, he could throw to get Kyrie whatever he wanted him to get, and whatever Kyrie wanted, he was going to do it.
Like you said, Corey, I feel like the Rudy Gobert trade was a part of it, like 20 to 30%. But like we've mentioned it, and I talked about it a minute ago, when you extend with that much money on a team, the Nets front office put their foot down, which is really abnormal for the NBA, and said, "We're not going to do this, and we have the legal obligation to not allow you to move." And Kevin Durant's like, and like you said a minute ago, he's not a guy that's going to sit out. So he's going to play because he loves basketball. Even though he wants to get traded, he doesn't want, but he's going to play basketball when the season starts. He's going to lace up his new shoes. He's going to go out there and he's going to play basketball, and he's going to average 30 and average 7 rebounds a game. That's what he's going to do. And the Nets realized that he was going to do that. They put their foot down. We're paying you this much money. You're going to play basketball for us. And at the end of the day, that's what happened. And that's what's going to happen when the season starts.
And let's be honest, the Nets are no scrub of a team now. This Nets team on paper is not anything like what we saw in that first round against the Celtics. They got not only did they get Joe Harris back, but they actually made a couple of veteran grabs that are actually going to complement KD and Kyrie extremely well. And so I think KD's looking at his options and he's thinking, okay, I could go to the Boston Celtics. I could go there and I could really force my way there. But the Nets on paper, KD can make himself believe, okay, well, I'm playing with my best friend and we have a good team. So I think that was the biggest thing. Oh, but real quick, so I told Grady in the chat earlier that since we were going to be talking about KD, I had a little trivia question for you all. And I'll give y'all some hints because it's quite hard. But the trivia question is, okay, so Kevin Durant is one of 3 NBA players in history to average for their career 25 plus points per game on true shooting percentage of at least 60%. And I'll give you a hint. The in history part doesn't really matter because the other 2 are actually current players. So I'll say it again. They average 25 plus points a game.
In their career?
Yeah. And there's no games required. So that's another hint. And they shoot, true shooting is 60%. So that's a really good percentage.
James Harden.
No.
Oh, okay.
The efficiency is what's wrong with him.
JJ Redick.
No. Okay. So they average 25. And I'll give you another hint. Grady's actually mentioned one of them. And that's what I was saying is games don't matter.
I mentioned one of them tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Western Conference?
Yep.
Zion Williams.
Yeah, Zion's one of them, averaging 25.7 on true shooting, 64%, the best of all.
So they're both
like
in the
that,
Western
dude.
Conference.
The others in the East.
And he's
Giannis?
currently in the NBA.
Not Giannis. Yeah, he's currently very good player.
Jimmy Buckets.
Nope.
Mm.
Is he like
Uh,
a star or a role player?
Massive.
Not a role,
He's
but,
averaging 26 for his career.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler don't average 26.
Does he play for the Nets?
Nope.
Ooh.
He has a very famous nickname.
In the Eastern Conference.
That doesn't help any.
Don't say it. We're gonna figure it out.
Is it Carugo?
Nope. He averages 26 a game.
Yeah, Caruso averages like 7.
I'll say this last season was very notorious for him.
Jason Tatum.
No,
Oh,
was very, very notorious for him because of the scoring.
Joel Embiid.
Yep.
Okay. That was going to be my next guess after Jason Tatum. But
The
once you
three-
said
The three are KD, Joel Embiid, and Zion. All three 25 and up, true shooting 60% and up in history.
it sucks though, because
So-
he still is the second best center in the NBA. Right in
Who's your
behind
first
Karl
one?
Anthony Towns.
There it
I
is.
knew he was going to say.
There it is. But all right, I think that's gonna end us off tonight for our little NBA talk. That went longer than I wanted it to, but I appreciate you guys for jumping in tonight. My NBA guys, Big W. John never showed up. He ate a 3-hour supper, so he never showed up. It is.
I like how
currently
you
11
said. I like you said NBA guys, and I may have watched 3 NBA games in the past 2 years.
You're an NBA guy to me, Toby. You're an NBA guy to me.
I read
But it's
quotes.
11. It's 11:30 here in Knoxville, Tennessee tonight. So I'm gonna get some rest. I got an 8 a.m. lab tomorrow that goes till 5 p.m. So I'm planning on trying to get a little bit of sleep. But I appreciate you guys for showing up, showing out, and glad for the pod to be back alive. Missed you boys, and I'll see y'all soon when I get back this coming Friday. So peace, love, and God bless to all the people out there.